This section looks at what the safe levels of lead paint are. This includes looking at identifying safe exposure levels for lead in paintwork, health and safety responsibilities of employers, health and safety responsibilities of employees, duties and responsibilities of landlords, duties and responsibilities of homeowners. What are the safe exposure levels for lead paint? There is some debate regarding safe levels in air or drinking water. Some scientists claim that there is no safe level for lead exposure. The World Health Organization in 2010 withdrew its recommendations on safe weekly exposures to lead. What are the safe exposure levels for lead paint? If you or your employer suspects that you may have been exposed to lead, your employer will arrange for a doctor or nurse to give you a blood test. In the United Kingdom, lead exposure is monitored by the quantity of lead in the blood, and action is taken on this basis. What are the safe exposure levels for lead paint? There is no safe level, and there are legislative control measures triggered if exposure levels are too high. If your exposure level is too high, your employer must put in control measures. If your levels reach suspension level after control measures have been introduced, you will then be removed from that area of work that exposes you to lead. There are 3 groups of individuals identified under the law. Each type has a different action and suspension level. For general employees, employers are required to take action when an employee's blood contains 50 micrograms per decilitre. Employees are suspended from work area if blood contains 60 micrograms per decilitre. For women employees of childbearing age, employers are required to act when an employee's blood contains 25 micrograms per decilitre, and suspension from work area if the blood contains 30 micrograms per decilitre. Employers of young people under 18, other than in category A, are required to take action if their blood contains 40 micrograms per decilitre, and suspension from working area if their blood contains 50 micrograms per decilitre. Your employer must assess the risk to your health to decide whether or not your exposure is significant. The law defines this and what precautions are needed to protect your health. This will often be recorded in a risk assessment. Employees should notify their employer if they believe that they may be exposed to lead or are suffering from symptoms associated with lead poisoning. Landlords, you have a duty of care to your tenants to not unnecessarily expose them to the risk of lead poisoning. If your housing stock includes properties that were built pre-1960s, it may be sensible to undertake a risk assessment and put control measures in place. Homeowners, if your property was built pre-1960s, you have a responsibility to ensure that the residents in the home are not exposed to lead. You should consult a lead survey specialist. Here are some useful resources and hyperlinks. If you provide further information, you may have lead water pipes in your home. Contact your local water supply provider. We hope it has increased your knowledge on the best way to make your home safe. Lead.
You may find these publications useful. All publications shown here have hyperlinks that you can find in your resources folder in the relevant course section. The same applies to this list covering old lead paint, controlling hazardous substances, and right waste, right place. Again, all have hyperlinks within your course resources section. These organisations are helpful in providing information on lead in paint. The British Coatings Federation, Historic England, Painting and Decorating Association, and the Construction Industries Training Board, CITB. You may find these resources useful for information on lead testing and lead test kits. Information on UK testing laboratories in the UK accreditation services, the UCAS website, and you can also pick up DIY lead test kits that are available from sources such as eBay and Amazon. Thank you for completing the course, the Lead in Paint Awareness course for operatives. The next step is to take the course assessment. Are there any questions on this section?